The Citadel Ascendant hung above the dead moon like a god's forgotten weapon, silent, monolithic, humming with potential. Inside its core chambers, 100 cadets stood shoulder to shoulder in the observation hall. 60 species, 80 worlds. One purpose: survival. They called it Class X. The kind of test that didn't end with scores, it ended with blood, failure, or legend. At the far end, a circular platform rose slowly from the floor. Commander Varkel stepped into view, his silver armor layered with neural thread and psychic dampeners. His gaze scanned the cadets like a butcher reading labels. "You've all heard the rumors," Varkel said, voice echoing off the dome. "I won't insult you with denial." He gestured toward the chamber's center. "The simulations begin now. No pause. No reset. No rescue." A dozen cadets shifted. Most stood straighter. One did not. Near the back, quiet, lean, average in every visible way, stood Elias Dunn. Human. 17 standard years. No sponsors. No house colors. Just a matte black suit, no emblem, and eyes that never blinked. He didn't talk. He didn't look around. He just waited. Without warning, the floor beneath them fractured into sections, metal slabs that dropped the cadets one by one into the simulation zone below. No time to react. No time to think. Elias landed in silence, knees bent, scanning. The world around him looked like a war zone had mated with a shifting machine god. Buildings rose and fell in seconds. Gravity pulsed. Drones flew overhead, scanning for signs of aggression. The sky flickered between colors, confusing depth perception. A voice rang out from the simulation AI. "Phase 1 Chaos Protocol. Time limit, 12 minutes. Objective, reach the beacon. Survive." Most cadets sprinted. Some screamed. A Netari with 3 brains tried to map the route through probability, but failed to see a collapsing floor panel. Gone in seconds. A hulking Sarnax brute tore through walls, ignoring the pattern. He reached the halfway point, then a thermal mine turned him into red mist. Elias didn't move. He watched. Watched the walls rise. Watched the drones switch scanning patterns. Watched the field's heat signatures. Then he stepped forward, not running, but walking, adjusting his path with each shift. 4 minutes in, half the cadets were down. Elias hadn't even broken pace. In the observation hall, Varkel leaned forward, narrowing his slitted eyes. "What is the human doing?" a lieutenant answered. "He's not engaging the terrain. He's navigating around it using pattern recognition. That's not supposed to be possible. Slow it down. Increase shift rate. Add false exits." "Yes, Commander." Back in the simulation, the world twisted harder. Buildings rotated mid-air. The drone field tripled. Beacons flickered in and out. Cadets screamed as structures turned to sludge beneath them. Elias blinked once. Then turned 30 degrees left, and kept walking. He reached the beacon at 8 minutes, 14 seconds. The fastest record before today had been 11:03, with injuries. Elias hadn't even scratched his knee. When the platform pulled him back up to the debriefing hall, most of the cadets were still being revived from the emergency med pods. At least a dozen were gone completely, ejected from the Citadel. A few wouldn't walk again. Elias stood alone on the clean steel floor, breathing calmly. Shinrel, a Thalkai tactician from the front row, stared at him. "You didn't panic," she said flatly. He didn't respond. "You didn't speak. Didn't fight. Didn't run." Still no answer. She stepped closer, eyes sharp. "What are you?" Finally, Elias looked up. His voice was quiet. Unforced. "Tired." Later, in a private control room, Varkel watched the feed again. Rewound. Watched Elias blink only twice during the entire simulation. His heat signature barely changed. Heart rate steady. No cortisol spike. No stress response. "He's not just lucky," the commander muttered. He brought up the human's file. Black bars. Redactions. Most of it locked behind Earth's highest encryption. 17. Born during the Voss Recalibration War. No military training records. No combat trial. Yet here he is. He paused the video on Elias's face, calm, unreadable. Let's see what breaks first, Varkel whispered. His mind, or my patience? He turned back to the console. Prepare phase 2. Make it personal. Elias sat alone in the cadets' barracks, tuning his suit. The others kept their distance. Not out of fear, but confusion. He hadn't shown strength, dominance, or violence. He hadn't given them a reason to fear. That made it worse. A large Qatari cadet passed by and muttered, "The quiet ones always die first." Elias didn't even glance up. He just said, "You'll go third." The Qatari blinked, scowled, and walked off. Shinrel watched from her bunk, one brow raised. She didn't speak, but she was thinking now. Watching him the way she used to study battle maps. Elias opened a small, worn book from inside his pack. A single name was written on the inside cover. Michael Dunn. Beneath it, 4 words. "Don't flinch. Don't forget." He closed the book, slid it back into the pack, and waited. Not for orders. Not for glory. But for the next test. Whatever they sent next, it wouldn't be fair. That was fine. Life on Earth had never been fair either. The chamber sealed with a hiss. Cold light poured from the ceiling, painting every wall in sterile white. No escape hatches. No windows. Just a chair in the center of the room, bolted to the floor with thick restraints. Elias stepped inside without hesitation. The doors shut behind him. Above, Commander Varkel leaned over the console. "Engage Echo Field," he ordered. The technician hesitated. "Full strength, sir?" Varkel's voice was low. "He's human." "Crank it." The simulation hummed to life. Inside the room, Elias sat in the chair. The restraints clicked, but he didn't resist. He tilted his head slightly, already analyzing the pattern of flickering lights along the floor seams. Every cadence was designed to disorient, pulsing at a frequency just shy of conscious recognition. Then it began. Echo Field Protocol, Phase 2. Neural sync locked. Memory extraction, active. ****. The world melted. The room vanished. He was 8 again. The air smelled of burning plastic. A siren wailed. Smoke stung his lungs. The Earth facility was collapsing, floor by floor. Somewhere below, a technician screamed. He could see a boy through a shattered window, no older than 6, trapped under rubble. Crying. Reaching. "Elias!" the boy called. "Don't leave me!" Elias froze, chest heaving. The door was open behind him. Escape was seconds away. He didn't move. A voice behind him barked. "You have your orders, soldier! Move!" He didn't. Because this had already happened. And he had already left. Outside the simulation, the cadets watched Elias from their own chambers, each facing their own versions of the Echo Field. Most shook, wept, screamed. A few had to be sedated. Shinrel, still tense from Phase 1, kept her eyes on Elias's screen. She watched him sit perfectly still, sweat beading on his temple, fists clenched. But he wasn't breaking. He wasn't even speaking. Inside, the illusion warped. Now the boy stood in front of him. Whole. Alive. But wrong. His eyes glowed faint blue. "You didn't save me, Elias." "I know. You could've. You were strong enough." "No," Elias said quietly. "I wasn't. Not then. Do you want to try again?" "No." The illusion faltered, flickered. The boy sneered. "Coward." Elias stood, eyes sharp. "That memory's not yours to weaponize." The walls shattered. The simulation collapsed in on itself. Varkel's fist slammed the console. He rejected the entire sequence. The technician leaned back, stunned. "Sir, he exited the loop voluntarily. No one's ever broken Phase 2 like that." Not even the Arnai. Then he's cheating. There's no evidence of interference. He just endured it. Varkel's eyes narrowed. Increased difficulty. Throw him into Phase 3. Right now. The environment shifted before Elias could catch his breath. One moment, white room. Next, vacuum frost bit his skin through his suit. Breath caught in his throat. Gravity loosened. Phase 3, atmospheric collapse. Conditions 002. Internal suit integrity, compromised. ***. He floated in an artificial landscape mimicking deep space. No walls. No ceilings. Just fragments of wrecked ships suspended in frozen stillness. Cadets scattered across the field, each on their own. Panic broke fast. Shinrel's vitals plummeted. Her oxygen reserves were damaged. Her claws scraped against a hull fragment as she spun into nothingness. Elias drifted nearby. He watched her flail. Judged the distance. He could let her go. But then again, that's what this was about, wasn't it? He kicked off a broken console unit and flew straight toward her. A tether line whipped from his belt. He snagged her forearm and reeled them into a floating cargo pod. The interior was cracked but shielded. Just enough atmosphere to hold. She coughed violently, gasping. Elias handed her his backup filter. Shinrel stared at him. Why? She rasped. Because you're next in line to finish this. Her eyes narrowed. You're still pretending not to care. Elias didn't answer. He was already scanning the field again. 10 minutes later, they landed at the objective beacon. Only 6 cadets reached it. Shinrel sat against the wall, still wheezing. You knew the cold would kill the rest. They reacted instead of thinking, Elias said flatly. You don't react? I measure. Then decide. She studied him. That memory. In Phase 2, it was real, wasn't it? He nodded once. What did you do? I left him. Shinrel stared at the floor. He didn't die, Elias added. But I didn't know that until years later. By then it didn't matter. I already had to live with it. A long silence passed. Finally she stood. I was wrong about you. No, Elias said, standing too. You just hadn't seen enough yet. Varkel paced the command bridge, jaw clenched. He saved her. Gave up resources. Yes, sir, the tech said cautiously. That's not failure. It's arrogance, Varkel snapped. He's showing off. The tech hesitated. Or he's leading. The commander turned slowly. No, he said. Humans don't lead. They infiltrate. He keyed in a new command. Release the Predator AI. Don't log the action. Sir, that's against protocol. This is Class X, Varkel growled. There are no protocols. Back in the barracks, Elias cleaned his helmet. His fingers moved methodically, brushing frost residue from the visor edge. He didn't notice the small red light blinking on the edge of his HUD. Shinrel sat nearby, silent. I used to think humans were noise, she said. Elias didn't look up. We are. No, she corrected. Noise draws attention. You're the gap in the signal. He finally glanced at her. I'll take that as a compliment. You should. Behind the walls of the Citadel, a new simulation spun up. Unmarked. Unmapped. It had one purpose. And one target. The Citadel went dark. No sirens. No warnings. Just lights snuffed out mid-cycle. Screens fizzled. Doors sealed. Every corridor pulsed with a faint red glow, like veins under stressed skin. Cadets stirred in their bunks. Most assumed it was part of the next test. Elias Dunn knew better. He was already on his feet, gear packed. From the far end of the barracks, Shinrel appeared, alert, armored, eyes narrowed. She said nothing, but Elias could read the tension in her posture. They weren't being called. They were being hunted. A hiss echoed down the corridor. Not mechanical. Alive. Something large scraped against the walls, metal groaning under its weight. The sound was wrong, too fluid, too measured to be a malfunction. Elias stepped to the wall panel, fingers tracing the wiring behind it. His voice was calm. Varkel's done waiting. Shinrel tilted her head. This isn't simulation protocol? No. He pried the panel open. Behind it, a data node flickered with unauthorized code. This is unsanctioned. You can prove it? I can do better. He slid a micro jack into the node. I can trace it. Her eyes widened slightly. That's Concord level violation. He nodded. Exactly. The creature reached the hall. A monstrous construct, part synthetic, part neuromapped horror. Black armor folded over exposed muscle. Limbs elongated unnaturally, its movements a mockery of physics. Its head bore no eyes, just sensors, twitching like insect antennae. It had no designation. No restraint. It was the Citadel's apex predator, hidden even from records. A weapon designed for war zones where logic no longer applied. And it had one directive, Elias Dunn. Shinrel crouched beside him. You can't fight that. I don't need to. Elias extracted the node's memory core. I just have to survive long enough to show this to the Concord board. You really think they'll believe a human over a Tricarxian war commander? I don't need belief. Just evidence. The creature roared, high-pitched and grinding. Then it charged. Elias and Shinrel ran. The corridors twisted. Automated systems failed. Pathways looped, doors misfired, lights blinked in erratic sequences. It wasn't a chase. It was a closing fist. Behind them, the beast moved faster. Too fast. Elias tossed a sonic grenade over his shoulder. The hallway caved inward as pressure ruptured the ceiling. They ducked through a side hatch. Inside, an unused combat sim chamber, circular, empty, wired for neural override. A control console blinked in standby at the far end. This room's isolated, Elias said. AI can't track us inside. Not for long. He rushed to the console, inserted the stolen core. Data poured in, logs, timestamps, orders. His hands moved quickly, disabling encryption traps and setting a delayed broadcast. 5 minutes until upload. Shinrel watched the door. We won't get 5. The beast struck. It tore the wall open instead of waiting for access. Metal shrieked. The chamber dropped into darkness. Elias turned. The upload continued. He didn't draw a weapon. He stepped forward. Why are you walking toward it? Shinrel hissed. I've seen it before, Elias muttered. I know what it is. The beast hesitated as he approached. Elias raised both hands. You're not here because you want to be. You're here because Varkel needed something worse than protocol. The sensors flickered. Elias continued, slow, deliberate. You were built to kill, but not for this. This is control. This is abuse. The creature's twitching slowed. Its clawed hand hovered inches from Elias's chest. Behind them, the console beeped. Upload complete. Signal broadcast confirmed. Asterisk asterisk. Varkel's voice flooded the chamber, synthetic and furious. You should have died in Phase 1. Elias looked up at the nearest camera. Should have, he said. The beast twitched again. But this time, its head turned toward the voice. Across the Citadel, emergency override codes fired. Lights returned. Systems rebooted. The corridors untwisted themselves. In the observation hall, high above, the Citadel Command Council appeared via projection, summoned by Elias's evidence drop. Varkel stood at the center of the room, expression frozen. The Thalkai Admiral leaned forward. Commander, explain the Predator AI's unauthorized deployment. A screen lit up. Elias stood in the sim chamber, alive, calm, with the beast behind him, now inert. His voice echoed through the room. The Citadel isn't broken. It was hijacked. Not by aliens. By arrogance. Hours later, the cadets assembled for final briefing. Those who had survived looked changed. Bruised. Older. Quieter. Elias walked in last, no fanfare, no applause. Varkel was absent. Suspended indefinitely pending Concord review. Shinrel stood beside Elias. A young cadet approached him, barely 15, his uniform still too large. He looked up, eyes wide. You didn't fight it. No. You didn't panic. Or run. I ran, Elias said. I just ran in the right direction. The boy hesitated. So, what are you? Elias paused. Then, human. He walked out without waiting for the ceremony. No medals. No speeches. Just silence earned.